Cracey Fernandes. I'm co-chairman of the Guyana Sex Work Coalition. I'm director on the board of governors with the Caribbean Involvement Committees Coalition, which is CVC based out in Jamaica. And I'm also the admin personnel with the Caribbean Sex Work Coalition, working specifically in Guyana through a funding from the Global Fund, PR being UNDP and CVC being the sub-recipient. Our major challenges as it relates to the fight against HIV in members of the sex work community has remained to be stigma and discrimination. And it's across all sectors. Even though there may and there is other issues that will or continues to plague the community, stigma and discrimination has really created an impeding impact. One that we are at every level through all the agencies we work with, trying as much as possible to deal with stigma and discrimination as much as possible in terms of how persons access services. The sex work community is a very vibrant one, and for those persons who may have their own thoughts or ideas or myths or misconceptions or beliefs or global understanding of whatever it may be, many persons that we would have spoken to across the globe, because I have traveled extensively to as far as India, representing the rights and advocating for the rights of the sex work population. The issues are the same in many ways, and what we have found of recent coming out of the George Bush presidency is the anti-prostitution pledge, where the U.S. government through PEPFAR and the donor agencies are not supporting work with the sex work community in relation to advocacy. So they're going to do HIV testing, they're going to push you through a system where if you're positive, you can get some form of treatment, but prior to that, they're not going to do any other work with you, and that has hampered us globally. Because other donor agencies who may receive some form of funding from PEPFAR also is following the mandates of what PEPFAR is saying. And this by itself, on a financial basis, has created a disparity for the community. In a local context, political, religious, internal, meaning within the communities, family-oriented, or a whole host of other issues probably coming out of some of the clients too, is that sex workers are treated like if they're low-class animals. In many ways, accessing services at health facilities, if you're known to be a sex worker, you're involved in the sex work industry, you're many times turned away, left to sit for an extended period of time, while persons who may come after you to seek the same service will be treated long before you. In the law enforcement agency, the same treatment is meted out, and even worse, because there are many cases where sex workers would have been violated by members of the law enforcement team. In many cases, if they're out with a client and the police are doing the regular patrol, they might notice that a car is parked in a suspicious way. They pounce on it, or they check it because they said it's security. They're checking to see what's happening in the public sphere. And if there is a sex worker, be it male, female, or transgender, many times those persons are harassed, beaten, and placed before the court. The issue that relates to HIV and stigma and discrimination, persons are fearful of accessing services because there's already a defense mechanism within them that if I go before a police station to make a complaint about someone who might have violated me, I'm going to be first violated by the law enforcement officials. So I'm dealing with two layers of stigma. I'm dealing with, or two layers of violence. I'm dealing with what has happened to me by the perpetrators or perpetrator, and I'm dealing with what's coming before me. So we've had many interventions at various police stations where police officers just don't give a damn about what a sex worker comes to report because they're saying that, oh, you're out there selling sex, so it's not important, you probably violated the client. There have been cases where police officers have been clients of sex workers and they would have violated sex workers' rights. You remember more than one cases where police officers take sex workers at a specific spot on the sea walls, had all types of sexual activities with them, and when it's time to pay that person the due amount that they would have arranged for that service, police officers took away the sex worker's clothing and left her there naked. And there's no redress system when it comes to who we report to. As it relates to members of the media, I think that, and this is no disrespect to you guys, I don't really know who I'm here talking to, but I know that you're members of the media fraternity. I think the reporting mechanism needs to be more inclusive of persons who are members of the key population as it relates to the issues that we face. Because many times the media sensitize and thank you very much, sometimes the word gets me confused. But because of that, we've had cases where sex workers might have committed an offense because they might have been defending themselves, but the presumption of guilt comes where the media starts to play an important part because of how persons in the fraternity, the media fraternity, sometimes bring the reports to the general public. We've had many cases where I've gone to talk at forums and my information was distorted to fit what the editor-in-chief and those persons in the hierarchy of the media wanted to come out. And sometimes it's very difficult to get me to come and talk because I'm more on the ground trying to get work done for the community than talking to the media, because personally, as a member of the community, we try as much as possible to create a defense mechanism of not going to certain places because we don't want to talk to certain. They will never understand the issues sex workers face when they go to the bank, when they go to the public health settings, when they go to institutes that are dealing with financial issues, to the land agencies or wherever they may go. Because you cannot at no point in time on any application put that you're a sex worker or a prostitute or an orgasmic therapist for those who want to use other terms to express who they are. And the issues are becoming so difficult that in cases where at the parental end of it, where a mother may be doing certain things because her financial situation may be so difficult that that's an option that she chose to, because of the fact that employment and a whole host of other social issues may be at her doorstep banging, and she has to make a choice. What we would have recognized in many cases when we talk to members of the community is that we found that there's a new branch of the sex work community that came out, and those persons are called transactional sex workers. So members of parliament, members of these high-end agencies, the media, parliament, and doctor's office, and secretary, and lawyers, and all of these different types of persons have sexual activities for a favor, for a promotion, for a new cell phone, for a bill, for a car. And this is not to demean people, but these are the information that we're getting coming out. And they don't want to be called mainstream sex workers. They prefer to be considered transactional persons who just have a sex for something. This has become challenging for us because the work that we do on the ground cannot be impacted, because for persons who are in these high-end offices, you cannot approach them to do any intervention with the HIV services, advocacy, etc. We've had several cases where we would have approached the Ministry of Health to do interventions with our local media fraternity, the Nurses Association, etc., because we realize and recognize that some of these agencies that we may want to work with, we cannot directly get in contact with them. So using the National AIDS Program Secretariat through the Public Health Ministry is an easier ally to work through in getting certain opportunities. And we've recognized that because of that, we have made some indentation in the work that we do. But again, coming back to, and I want to specifically bring this point to the table where the transgender sex workers are concerned. Some of them have committed themselves some way or the other, whether it's theft, whether it's using some substance, and they might have been caught by the police. The concerns that we do have is that the media has emboldened it to make it look so bad for these persons that many times persons have to cover their face with a black bag. Persons are out there plying their trade. None of us, and I am here as the co-chairman of the organization to say that my position is not to stop anyone from being involved in sex work. My position is to advocate for them to come out when they wish to. Because we are not out there creating sex workers or bringing people on board to become sex workers. We work with those persons who are already there. And the organization has a very, very serious mandate in not working with kids, because we would have had some run-ins with the U.S. Embassy locally where we were told that we were trafficking persons. Nothing of the sort. So basically, with the understanding that the population has its own issues and members of the community, be it whichever fraternity, has a mandate to serve, the authenticity of the information we many times give out, or the information that we give out sometimes, it may not always be authentic. And sometimes we run with that and we publish it and we put it up there through whatever medium we can, whether it's Facebook or sometimes something happens now and in 2-3 seconds, 5 seconds after, a minute after, somebody posts it on Facebook. And if we're not responsible in what we're posting at the end of the day, even though someone may have committed an offense, the law is there through all the various levels to deal with it, and we know the media needs to play its part. How you guys step in and what you report creates an indelible impact, whether it is the positive part of it or the negative part of it. And most times, in our local context, we realize that most of it comes out as negativity. Most of it, because you're being a member of the community, I can read it in one way and understand it. But when you have other persons who are not a part of the community, may just be a supporter, a businessman who may give us money to do an activity, may call to say, well, there is something in the newspaper that I really don't appreciate. There's something that just came over on the television. There's something on Facebook. We've had many, many opportunities to talk to business persons who support us in begging them to continue because of how the information comes over sometimes. Even though it may be true in some cases, sometimes it's bolstered, it's polished too much, and the negativity is just blatantly exposed out there. So for us, we are willing to work with all the agencies across board. We don't have a problem with doing that. But then, as Cedrian would have said early on, and Carol, narcissist, anyway, that's not Carol. Many times we come with our own prejudice. We come with our own beliefs. We come with our own morals, and we all have our own views. But in our professional sense, in our professional field, or professional environment, we all need to put those baggages or concerns or morals or values that we have aside when we're dealing with members of the public. Because if I usually like to refer to a poem on the other side of the desk. If I'm reporting against you, you'd want me to be accurate about you. If I'm giving you medical attention, you'd want me to give you the best treatment. If I'm a law enforcement official, you'd want me to treat you with utmost respect. If I'm a pastor giving you a marriage ceremony, you'd want me to do my best. So switch it around. If you're offering me the same service, I expect the same from you. And as a human rights advocate, I don't know if you guys are talking about human rights, but I think that's a very positive step in inculcating a part of discussions like these, because many times persons in these fraternities don't recognize that members of the key population are human rights, members of the human rights fraternity. They're human beings. They need to be treated with respect. And many times we don't listen to people. We jump to our own conclusions. We become prejudicial because we feel, oh, they're gay people, they're lesbians, they're transgender, they're sex workers, so they don't have human rights. And we trample on people's rights because we are at a position in our hierarchy that we don't see people for who they are. We sit in our ivory towers and we make conclusions of, oh, this is the best thing to put out there because it's going to, my paper is going to sell, my news is, people are going to log in, whatever it is. Before I close, simply wish to say that I wish you all the best in your endeavors, and I hope that whatever is coming out of here, we can be able to change some hearts and change some minds in terms of how you go about on your daily endeavors, and best of luck.
Thank you, Cracey.